Let's go Brandon Johnson in Chicago. He has got some ultra woke ideology that if he gets it pushed through, it's going to wreck Chicago's business future. What's that look like? Let's get into it. Here we go. I'm going to read the first few paragraphs from this article. Mayor is driven by ideological commitments that harm many of the constituents he claims to champion. And this is exactly what we're seeing in New York City with Mom Dunning propose. Katie Wilson here in Seattle, socialist, new mayor. She's already out protesting to boycott Starbucks, one of our major employers from Seattle. Make that make sense. Well, let's go Brandon Johnson. He's got this genius concept where he's gonna tax anybody with over 100 employees $21 per month per head. It's a massive tax. It's a massive tax. If you're running a restaurant, you might have over 100 employees. They run on super thin margins. That is not going to work. But let's go Brandon Johnson. He doesn't really understand much other than, I must make the teachers unions happy. And we can't ever cut the budget. We must add to it. Tax and spend, tax and spend, tax and spend. That's what you got going on here. Let's read just a little bit. Chicago City budget Mayor Brandon Johnson has put forward for 2026 offers a clear window into his mayoralty. Beneath the technical language and spreadsheets lies a simple reality. It's fiscally irresponsible and driven by ideological commitments that harm many of the constituents whom Johnson claims to champion. He wants to be the champion for the working man. But in order to be a working man or woman, let's not be sexist, you have to have a job. And when you are going after those very businesses that you say that you're championing, it's a hard word to say, even if you're a podcast. If you're going after those businesses that employ people, how's that going to work out? What's that going to look like moving down the road? Not good. Not good. Because now businesses are going to be like, Chicago? Hell no. Hell to the no. $21 a month? F that. No way. We're not doing that. Or, hey, I got 80 employees now. I'm not hiring anymore, especially in Chicago. Or I've got 110 now. Let's see. How can I move 15 of those to remote positions? Yeah. You think that's going to bring more revenue to Chicago? No. It's not. It's going to drive it out in droves. Yet there is a silver lining to this. That's why I like this article. This budget will make it harder for Johnson to win a second term. And because Johnson already occupies the left lane in Chicago's ostensibly nonpartisan mayoral elections, his challenger is more likely to be interested in governing than in acting like a street corner prophet of progressive politics. That is exactly what Let's Go Brandon Johnson is. He just spouts off a bunch of nonsense that in no way, shape, or form makes any sense. Like, you're going to tax businesses with more than 100 employees, 21 per head per month? What? We've already got some of that taxation going on in the United States. And you know what? It doesn't really work all that well. Because it destroys anybody's incentive to run a business in that, whatever is taxing that. It doesn't make any sense. As the Romans have long observed, after a fat pope, a thin pope. What they're talking about is, well, what we can hope for is that we have seen the ideological effects of a Let's Go Brandon Johnson on the constituents, and it was terrible. So, and he's a progressive, so let's go to, Now, the best you're going to hope for in Chicago is a Democrat moderate, right? That's the best you're going to hope for. Are you going to get one? Yeah, I mean, they had the opportunity in the election where they elected, Let's Go Brandon Johnson. They had the opportunity to elect more of a moderate, and they chose not to because he promised them, I'm going to get you some free stuff. It's going to be the greatest thing ever. And how's that working out? $1 billion budget. Hey, not to say that other cities don't have budget deficits like that. But when you're focusing everything on taxing the very entities that should be bringing in more dollars, it's literally like just shooting yourself in the foot on a daily basis. All right, it's going to hurt. We're going to do it again because, why not? We're Democrats and we like to tax and spend. And get out that revolver. Let's make sure. Johnson's challenge was to balance the city budget $1 billion out of whack. He blames the city's plight on Donald Trump through reduced federal grants. You hear this. Yeah, I mean, it's the tariffs are causing our budget short. And you're like, no. That's only something you can tell a dumb constituent who will believe it. Oh, let's go Brandon Johnson. He's my guy. Yeah, therefore, we're going to listen to him. And $21 per head tax. Yeah, that sounds good. Businesses will not be encouraged to go to Chicago. And you know what? Chicago's already lost like 10,000 businesses. Whether you want to look at business licenses that are no longer there, or actual revenue, or actual, or counting down the names of the businesses that left and took off, you've already got some massive ones that we covered. Caterpillar was one. I mean, just big businesses. You had like 3 major businesses that said, you know what? We can no longer make this work under the tax structure that Illinois and specifically Chicago provides. And they're not going to go anywhere else in Illinois. Chicago's the only game in town, right? Let's be honest. So, this idea that, we got to make up for the difference. All right. You need to find something else. Maybe you need to whack away at that budget a little. No, he's not doing that. Not doing that at all. New taxes on business dominate Johnson's proposals, showing that the mayor is indifferent to Chicago's greatest need, attracting more business to increase economic growth. One of my themes lately has been every single minute that you and I talk right now, per IRS data, the state of California loses 1 taxpayer. Every 2 minutes and change, Florida gains a taxpayer. Texas gains a taxpayer. So California, every minute, out goes 1. Boom, boom. In goes to Texas and Florida and other states. You've got similar. And the big difference, one's run by a Republican and encourages business. The other is run by a Democrat and runs businesses out of town. And that's what you got going on in Chicago. They're literally running businesses out. Why would you want to set up a business when they're talking about the most obnoxious? Most obnoxious is a $21 per employee per month community safety surcharge. Oh, I find that hilarious. Community safety surcharge. That's the best you can do. Community safety surcharge. Let's, you know what? We haven't done this for a while. Let's look at Hey Jackass Chicago and let's see what the stats are. I haven't checked in for a while. Now, if you're not familiar with this one, let's see how we're doing. Okay, and this is the metric that I look at pretty often. All right, every 4 minutes and 21 seconds, a person is shot, and every 19 minutes, 42 seconds, a person is murdered. They are done. So in the time we've been talking, 6 minutes, 1 Chicagoan has been shot, and in another, let's see, we've got 13 minutes, somebody will be murdered. So when you're talking about community safety, I find that just a preposterous idea. Community safety surcharge. So you're going to charge them money to make the community safer. Okay. What? It's words. It's stringing a bunch of words together to make it sound good, to make it sound appealing. Because the constituents are so dumb. I mean, that's what Let's Go Brandon Johnson is saying about you folks that live in Chicago. You're so dumb that you'll buy this. You'll be like, oh yeah, this is what could go wrong? This is the greatest concept ever. You're not that dumb. You get it. You see through it. But you don't have any other options because this is your mayor. So you're going to have to, work with your alderman to figure out what you're going to do here. I don't know. Few other major cities impose such a tax. Of those that do, Chicago's would be the absolute tippy-top highest in the country. Johnson touts his proposal as a tax on the ultra-wealthy. That is just such nonsense. But it'll drive away new businesses and discourage existing ones from hitting more Chicagoans. Mayor's budget also proposes raising personal property lease tax, and he wants to tax social media. He wants to tax a whole bunch of stuff that does not say, hey, come run your business here. You know what states do that with way lower taxation? Texas, Florida, the Carolinas, Arizona, Idaho. And the list just goes on and on and on. It's just so widely apparent. And yet, let's go, Brandon Johnson. One of the articles I was reading was Chicago's head case wants a head tax. And you're like, yeah, that makes sense. He's a progressive head case, right? Teachers union guy. Just, this is how things are going to go. Has no idea about business. Just none. Doesn't know how to run a business. Couldn't care less how to run a business. Couldn't care less what he does to businesses because he thinks tax them and you know what? We'll squeeze the ultra wealthy. But a business with 100 employees is not an ultra wealthy business by any means. It's just, it's a metric. That doesn't mean they're making money. They could be losing money. That doesn't mean they're an ultra wealthy, company. So the bottom line is he's just pushing away future business. And he's telling the existing businesses, we don't really think much about you. And we want to have a community safety payment from you. Community safety surcharge. That is so laughable given how many people within Chicago's community will kill each other in the near future. You're not really doubling down on community safety. If you were, you'd hire triple the number of police officers and you'd actually prosecute people who are shooting one another. You'd put them in jail. But you don't want to do that because the optics would look terrible. Oh, we're doing what to who? Oh, good God, we can't do that. That's a no-go. Instead, let's go ahead and tax social media companies, tax businesses with over 100, tax the ultra rich because they need to pay their fair share. I mean, it's literally a bunch of head case stuff, right? Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson not backing off from proposed corporate head tax. He's kind of actually doubling down and he's basically stating, yep, this is what we're doing. This is what we're doing. He's saying it's going to make up for $100 million. The head tax will generate $100 million. How much in lost revenue will you create by putting this tax in place? That's the rub, right? That is the rub. How many billionaires will leave California with Governor Newsom's proposed 5% over $1 billion basically capital gains tax on the wealthy? How many of those billionaires will take their little toys and leave the playground and go somewhere else? Texas, Florida, Idaho, Carolinas. Yeah, the same list that I always give you because it doesn't really change much. How many businesses will head to a more red environment? After 10,000 have already left in the last 10 years from Chicago. 10,000 businesses. That is why you've got such a budget shortfall. You've been pushing out the very people that employ those that you say you care about the most. I care about the working man. I care about the guy on the street. Yeah, well, when they're out of a job because of your terrible policy, how's that going to work out? Brandon Johnson just looks dumb to me. I'm sorry. He looks unintelligent. You know what I mean? When he talks and he kind of furrows his eyebrows, you just think, is there thought going on in there? Are we? Oh, you just spoke. Oh, God. What you said doesn't make any sense at all. Oof. Yeah, maybe don't talk anymore. Is Brandon Johnson one and done? Absolutely. There's no way this guy's getting reelected. And if he does, Chicago, you already deserve what you get. Because it's like Seattle. We deserve what we get. We just hired a socialist with zero life experience. What could go wrong? She said that she's going to make everything affordable, even though she has zero ability to make anything affordable in any way, shape, or form. And neither does Let's Go Brandon Johnson, because the policies that are already in place are such that you can't undo those. This is something that's not exactly completely in line, but it has to do with the same thing. What we're talking about is making things more affordable. And what we're talking about is in high rent districts, in Democrat-run areas that have incredibly high rent because you've limited the supply of housing. These are the ingredients I'm about to read to you that make things so expensive. These are the ingredients that Let's Go Brandon Johnson, in the way of a $21 a head tax, are making business life in Chicago more expensive, pushing away business. This is what pushes developers away from blue states, counties, and cities from doing business, i.e. building homes. And actually, if there was a way to bring the cost down, building more housing. These are the reasons why you can't in a big blue liberal city. Permitting time takes way too long. Got way too many people dicking around with the process. Shortage of available land. Yeah, you got too many people hugging trees and you said, this is off limits. No, I can't do this. Inclusionary zoning. Permitting cost. Permits are way too expensive. Instead of $2,000 like they are in some states, they're, $18,000. Construction costs. Everything costs more in the big blue liberal city. Therefore, your home's going to cost more. Extreme tenant advantage. You're giving all the rights to tenants. Nobody wants to be a landlord when everything is so one-sided. Crime. Yeah. Nobody wants to build where there's people shooting each other every day, right? Insurance costs. Hey now. Yeah. Higher in areas where you've got circumstances that make that such. Increasing labor cost. Maybe when your $21 per head makes it more expensive to hire that worker for whatever labor cost. The individuals who build homes. High interest rates. That's an external factor. Nobody's wanting to build because of that. You layer on top this kind of stuff, and increasing vacancy because nobody wants to build there. You're creating a situation where you're just making it worse. And that's what Let's Go Brandon Johnson is doing. He is taking a bad situation, a $1 billion deficit, and long-term making it worse with a short-term decision to, hey, let's tag businesses, because else otherwise I got nothing. That's what Let's Go Brandon Johnson's got. He's got nothing because he's already tried to tax the constituents. They're already taxed to up to here. You look at the tax rates on real estate in Chicago. Oh my word, you poor people. Relative to assessed value, which is what I do, the metric I do, it's insane. It's insane because you've already pushed out the businesses. You've already pushed out the wealthy people. Magic Mile, how many businesses have left there? You got a bunch of kids running around downtown Chicago shooting each other. That doesn't exactly scream out, hey, come run a business here. It's going to be the greatest thing ever. Not doing that, right? So, this whole notion of let's do this, let's do that. I won't be comfortable supporting a budget until we look internally and make more cuts. Mayor tries to save head tax, but business leaders warn of adverse effects. Shocker. Head tax would affect companies with 100 or more employees who spend at least 50% of their time in Chicago. Business leaders say this could lead to more remote workers. Do you think so? See, if I can avoid that tax just by having a bunch of people, not necessarily all of them, but a handful of them working remotely, where do they work? Not Chicago. They work away. Oh, really? How are you going to enforce that? Here's where it gets kind of interesting. We have made considerations, and this is from our head case with the head tax proposal. We have made considerations for many different business industries, but we see this as a responsible way to balance this budget with these large corporations. It's going to affect about 3% of them. You're telling me that only 3% of the businesses in Chicago have 100 employees or more? No, there's way more than that. Way more. You're talking about Chicago. Chicago. This guy is literally mentally challenged. 3%. Where are you getting that number from there, numbnuts? Business leaders like Sam Toya, president and CEO of the Illinois Restaurant Association, have warned. Yeah, that's kind of what I was saying earlier. That's the first thing that came to my mind was we've warned that the head tax will negatively impact local businesses. This is not a good idea because a mid-sized restaurant group, just a restaurant company, could have over 100 employees. I have members that own one restaurant that have over 100 employees. Do you tell me that they're in the top 3%? Toya said. No. And I don't know, most folks don't recognize how many employees it takes to run a restaurant, but it is a crap ton. You start looking at shifts, different layers. You got, especially if they do 24-hour service. I mean, it is you got 3 different shifts every day, something like that, right? You've got so many people just wandering around doing stuff. You got people behind the scenes. You got people all over the place just to run one restaurant, and you can have over 100, no problem. So, that doesn't mean that they're in the top 3% of all businesses. It just means they got over 100 employees, whether they're making money or not. Depends what their model is, right? Depends what their model is. So here's the reality. What you're going to see is a lot of companies telling their team members to work 2 days a week in the city, 3 days a week from home. So now that cuts them out of the head tax. But you know what else that does? It hurts the restaurant industry because people will not be coming to the offices and our breakfast places and our lunch places and our happy hour places. It's true. I came this far to where I don't have a mortgage anymore, but now my taxes are through the roof, meaning that I wasn't even expecting this amount, she said. The mayor reiterated Thursday his refusal to raise property taxes or grant labor concessions because he is a progressive ideology kind of guy. He just thinks, okay, this is what we're doing. This is going to work. And this is what I have to say. Not necessarily, will this work? Does this have a chance in hell of working? No, of course it doesn't, because it gets tried elsewhere. And in fact, the opposite happens. When a city says, hey, you know what? We're getting rid of that pesky head tax. Getting rid of that pesky $4 head tax, and I don't remember where that was. That was seen as a pro-business move. That's how you drive more business in. But let's go Brandon Johnson. He doesn't understand business. He doesn't understand economics. All he understands is how to keep a school union happy by doing what they want. And they don't care about businesses coming or going from Chicago. They just want what they want. And then at the end of the day, you know what we'll see? Is a whole bunch more businesses, more than the 10,000 that have already left. You'll see more of that. And let's go Brandon Johnson will be out of office by then. And it'll be the next guy's problem. And he'll do the same thing Let's Go Brandon Johnson does, which is, oh, that Mayor Lori Lightfoot, she was terrible. She was awful. I gotta fix her whole mess. When in fact it's an ideology. It's progressive ideology which does not work. Taxing progressively the wealthy who are employers is literally not the direction you want to go. The direction you want to go is what Texas is doing. Florida is doing. Nevada is doing. They're gaining taxpayers. They're gaining businesses. They're gaining households. Not like Chicago, not like Illinois, not like California, who are just literally. So far, we're at 26 minutes. 26 taxpayers have left California. 26 taxpayers have left California since we last identified that. In Texas and Florida, they've each gained like 13. Like that. That's the reality. That is the reality. But let's go Brandon Johnson, our pointy-headed savior of all things socialism, progressive, whatever. Things that don't work. Yeah, there's that. There's that. So he's got till the end of the year. He's got till January 1st. I'm really curious to see how this goes down. What's Let's Go Brandon Johnson? What is he going to cave on? Because he can't get a lot of this stuff through. Because even the folks in Chicago understand, oh, that might not be good for our overall revenue structure because you're pushing businesses out. Yeah, I think there's enough people in Chicago. So then where's that leave Chicago? That's the rub. That's the rub. You got $1 billion deficit, you're going to have to make some cuts. Public safety. Oh, I don't think that every 4 minutes somebody gets shot and every, 14 minutes somebody gets murdered. I don't think that's a factor that plays into, hey, you know what? Let's fire some police officers in Chicago and find out what happens. That's not going to happen either. Something will happen. I'll record it for you right here on Let's Go Brandon Johnson update. How's that? Thanks again for being here. I'll see you in the next one. Love to have you subscribe, do all that stuff. We'll talk then. Thanks again for being here. Bye for now.